Buonasera a tutti, stasera una diretta prenatalizia importantissima a mio avviso, perché chi ne sa di musica su Film Music Channel c'è sempre grande qualità. Stasera parliamo col bassista e fondatore degli Specials, che per chi non li conoscesse è il gruppo ska più importante in Inghilterra. Quindi stasera un altro grandissimo ospite. Io ricordo che prossimamente verrà pubblicata una mia intervista e la metterò sui miei canali Instagram, quindi vi auguro una buona visione, come sempre date il tempo per i sottotitoli e partiamo. Hi Horace, thank you.
Matteo, nice to be here.
Thank you for your time and for your kindness, and your wife Claire, it is a good one. Thank you for her, for a patient and for everything.
Okay, well let's have this conversation at the end of the interview. Let's see if it works. Yeah.
Okay, it is a pleasure and an honor to have you, because you're a legend. You're the founder and the bassist of an important ska band in the UK, and the band is the Specials. I want to ask you the first thing, Horace. We can start with the present and the future, and later we can talk about your important past and everything. Now, what you do now? You're a painter. Can you tell us about your new art? Because you are a musician, but you are a painter. So let's talk about your thing.
Okay, the art was always a big thing in my life. I met Jerry Dammers from the Specials at art school, at art college. I went to Coventry to start in 1972. He started in 1973. So it was always it was always a big deal. Being in the Specials and when we were traveling a lot enabled me to apart from playing some great concerts, I was able to see some of the world's greatest paintings. When we went to New York in 1980, everybody else went out to nightclubs, whereas I went to bed early so I could get up the next day and visit the Guggenheim and the Museum of Modern Art, stuff like that. So art was always a big thing. And when the Specials reformed in 2009, we had a reasonable amount of downtime with, where we weren't playing. So I just started painting, and Claire, my wife, and I painted it, and she does the marketing and the selling, and that's worked really well. I'm a pop artist. I'm influenced by Andy Warhol, Roy Lichtenstein, the English pop artists as well, especially people like Peter Blake. So I do quite stylized representations, but I use the pop art ideology of elevating the mundane, so an ordinary thing. That's my subject matter. I've done things like cassettes, like audio cassettes. That's like
Yes,
Warhol.
I saw
Yeah.
on Instagram.
Yeah, Warhol has his soup cans, and I have my cassettes. But cassettes, it's a cheap, disposable piece of early music technology. But you would make a compilation cassette, and you would send it to your girlfriend. These are our favorite songs, and also, and they're repositories of memory. And the number of older men who come up to me at exhibitions and nudge me and say, "I've got a box load of those in my garage." A lot of people have got cassettes. So I've been doing that, but I'm also fascinated by America, both culturally, musically, and also art-wise. So I have painted a lot of pictures of things in America, things that English people wouldn't have. The big garish signs and the colours and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. I'm playing music as well, Matteo. I don't just spend all day in front of a painting. I'm playing music as well.
And it is a good one, because not so many musicians can transform them by a musician to a painter. It is a transition, and not so many musicians can do it. And I think that the art, if you are an artist or you are a musician, in my point of view, if you are a real musician, you can do this transition, and this transition or us, you can do it because when I saw on Instagram your cassette, it is a very clever idea because you do this kind of picture and you write it down. Specials, maybe the concert of the 1979 at the Lyceum, and it is a classic and a unique thing, and it is a very good one. And for you, it is a new thing. But I want to ask you, Horace,
Mm.
when did you begin to paint? When you was young or in the middle of your life?
I was always interested in art, and I went and I was 16, 17,
Okay.
and I was obsessed with pop music. I
Okay.
couldn't play an instrument, although I had one and I was in a band. um, but I just loved the art, the visual side of pop music, album covers. I would buy an album because I liked the cover, you know. Um, and that sort of I do you remember the Roger Dean who did the Yes
Yes, yes,
albums?
I know
I
it.
mean, I wasn't that keen on the music, but the covers, that whole universe that he created in those drawings are just
Visual thing.
amazing. Yeah,
Yes, is visual. Not only for yes. In my point of view, Roger Dean, as you said, only
he
the
did.
cover of the Ozzy Biza. Ozzy
Oh,
Biza
yes,
was a
he did. OCB, sir, and a few other Budgie. There's another band that did. Yeah,
Budgie.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. I mean, I just thought they were wonderful. So I suppose it sort of goes along with it. When I'm doing it, there's a real difference between music and art. With music, I'm a bass player. So
Yes.
I work with other people. I'm a team player. I work with a drummer or a keyboard player or a guitar player, whatever. Okay, I am a part of a machine. But with the art, that's me alone. I always say the art is my solo album. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the thing that the art works or fails by my efforts alone. And it's a different kind of satisfaction, if you like. When you're playing music, you know immediately whether it's working or not because of the
Yes.
reaction of the audience. But it's a different kind of satisfaction when I'm painting. But they're both creative
Way.
occurrences. Yeah, I'm very happy. I feel very lucky to be able to do both.
And it is very important. I want to ask you, Horace, as my guest, as this question is very important. When did you think about your future, about to do a classical musician? What is your first encounter with the music? As have you some memories about your first album? Can you remember your first album or your first band when you was young?
Yes, we were called Mobius. We were awful. We couldn't play, but we were just in love with being in a in a group. Um, and it was something that I was really enthusiastic about, but had very little skill. And that continued until my skill got a little better, and I met some people who were able to help me. No, I suppose I was like 17, 16, 17 when I did my first public appearance. Yeah, as I say, we were not very good at all, but we had lots of enthusiasm, and elder brothers elder sisters would come along and cheer us on, but nobody else.
The parents or us when you was young, what were your favorite bands? Prog music or pop music? Prog or pop?
Rock, I suppose. The first single I ever bought was by the Birds. It was
Birds.
5D, Fifth Dimension. It was in 3/4
Yes.
time. I never realized that at the time. But then I bought All or Nothing by the Small Faces, and I love the Spencer Davis Group. So I don't know, R&B, mod music, really. But the first concert that I ever attended, I went down to London and I saw Led Zeppelin. This was in
Wow.
1979. No, 1969. What am I talking about? 1969.
69.
And
So Led Zeppelin 2. Led Zeppelin 2 was the
yeah,
album.
it was
Led
just
Zeppelin 2.
about to be released. And to make no bones about it, it blew my mind. I was brought up in a small market town in the Midlands in England, so I had never been in a room with so many people in my life, and B, never heard anything so loud. And it was a total, but there was a total culture shock. But the power of the music was something that just sort of knocked me sideways. I thought that was absolutely, this, oh yeah, I really want to do this,
So the concert of Led Zeppelin make you to do this job. So you saw the Led Zeppelin and you
Yeah.
said to you, I want to be like them.
Yeah, I want to play. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to. I just had an idea that to be part of that, to make that kind of music, to make that kind of noise, it was something that I really wanted to do. So it was a total surprise when 10 years later I was actually making that noise. But it was quite a progress.
And in those days, after Led Zeppelin, have you heard prog music or not?
I knew of
Do
it.
you
Yes,
like
King
King
Crimson and
Crimson? Yes,
yes, and blah blah blah.
Genesis.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw Genesis with Peter Gabriel at
In 1970.
Lancaster University, 1970, I suppose. My friend Anthony, who was my friend I went down to see Led Zeppelin with. He was at university, and I went to visit him, and Genesis were playing. Yeah, the original lineup with Peter Banks and Phil Collins and blah blah blah. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't
And
remember that much about it, but
and or us in the later days when you studied in Coventry, when you was a student with Jerry Dammers, in those days when punk comes, how was your feelings about this kind of music? Do you like it or not? Sex Pistols,
um,
Clash, Adverts, Cress. I don't know. I don't know if you like it in those days.
one of the things that was interesting about the Specials is that apart from Terry Hall, who grew up with the Sex Pistols and the Clash and Patti Smith and television and whatever, the rest of us could play. We were a couple of years older. We knew where to put our fingers on key on fretboards and all this sort of stuff. A lot of the punks in Coventry could play like 2.5 chords and learnt the third one while they were doing their second gig. So musically, I wasn't that impressed with it, but the energy that it produced, and also the fact that it it totally subverted the record industry. You didn't have to sign to CBS or Polydor or whatever. You could go into your local little studio, spend 200 quid, come out with some tapes, and get 500 copies of whatever pressed up, and then it would be distributed by Pinnacle or Rough Trade. John Peel would play it on the radio, or whatever. And I thought that was fantastic. It was like sort of totally sort of like sideswiping the major record labels. I thought that part of it was fantastic, and I quite liked the more sort of I liked the new wavy stuff. I thought Elvis
Okay.
Costello was fantastic. I still do. So it was big deal when he actually produced the first Specials album. But I liked to like the Gang of Four or Magazine or you know, the more sort of experimentally stuff. Sex
Joy
Pistols, yeah, okay,
Division, Joy Division.
but Public Image, whatever. I didn't
Okay.
really get the Manchester stuff, to be honest, Matteo. Um,
Okay.
but
Mm,
obviously, I didn't tell anybody that my favorite band in the world was Little Feat. You
Little
know,
Feat. Yes, yes, I know
yeah,
it.
yeah. Who I saw,
And
I saw in 1977. They played in Birmingham, and it's the most amazing concert I've ever been to in my life.
and Coventry in those days was very different. Ska music, punk music, and I don't know, industrial music those days. Do you like bands like Throbbing Gristle, Cabaret
No,
Voltaire?
no, no,
No,
no,
no.
no. I don't go for that at all. I just read a really interesting book about Crass, who I didn't know
Trust.
that. I didn't know that much about.
Very rude, bad, very rude,
Yeah, yeah.
very arrogant.
And I don't think the music was up to much, but that was more like a political movement set to
Yes.
music, really. Yeah, which I didn't know that much about them, but it was an interesting book.
And the foundation of Specials.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the interest in ska music? Because ska, it is very different from reggae. Can you tell us about the foundation of Specials? When
Okay.
you met Jerry Dammers?
Yes. Like I say, I met Jerry Dammers at art school. I was playing in the college band. I could more or less play my bass guitar by then. Um, and we would rehearse in the college, and he would pop his head round the door just to see, whatever. So he knew that I played a bass, and I knew that he played piano because he used to do that when, as art students, we used to go down the pub and get and drink far too much, and he would end up on the piano that was in the room. And then when he graduated, he called me and said, "Come and play some music together." I was playing in a band in Coventry, and he would come and see us from time to time. Excuse me. So we started playing together. I didn't know that he wanted to form a band. It was just a group of friends, which included Linval Golding and our original drummer Silverton, who was from Barbados. Linval was from Jamaica, and Jerry wanted to play this music which combined funk music with reggae, sort of. But it was informed by punk rock. We weren't punks. We were, like as I say, we were slightly older than punks. So we ended up with a band. We had a different singer when we first started off, and we played, and I really liked it because it was music that I'd never played before, and it was quite adventurous for me. I could play the funk side of things, the soul side of things, but I had trouble with reggae because the bass is a different instrument in reggae. It sort of leads the band and takes the melody. So I had difficulty with that. But Linval and his friend Desmond would come round to my flat with reggae records and put them on and say, "Right, this is how it goes." The bass go down, da 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 da, bomb. But it was reggae. It wasn't ska. Please, Matteo, this is very important. The what became the band that became the Specials never started playing ska until the back end of 1978, when our original drummer Silverton quit, and B, Brad joined, and Jerry arrived in the studio our rehearsal room one day with a copy of Prince Buster's Greatest Hits under his arm. We were like a reggae funk band to start off with. We never played ska until, like I say, the back end of 1978. But ska was like the unifying factor for our music. So all the sort of the punky songs that we did, we could play slower and people could dance to them. And all the reggae songs that we played, we could play faster and people could dance. Do you see what I mean? So that was plus. Brad had his own take on that music, and which we played a lot faster than the originals. You know, if you listen to the original Monkey Man, you know,
Yes.
whereas our version was, you know, it had more energy to it. Then that was the punk influence, if you like. So, and another thing that happened in 1978, we got the support spot on a UK tour supporting the Clash, and
Wow.
yeah, and we hadn't played ska. We were still playing sort of our reggae, punky, funk sort of stuff, and but like we were able to sit side stage every night and watch how the Clash performed, how they put on a show, and also how the audience reacted, which the first few concerts scared me to death, that energy coming off a stage. But then realizing that if we wanted the Specials to be, you know, as good as this, you know, we had to play this kind of, you know, to these people, and we had to play something that was, you know, at least as good, if not better, than the Clash. So I think a lot of people sort of play that down, you know, but I think we owe as much a debt of gratitude to the Clash as we do to the Scatolites. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was basically how you know the Specials came about. And also Neville appeared on stage. Neville was our roadie. He, you know, would drive a,
Okay,
you know,
I was a
yeah,
roadie in Neville Staples. Okay.
yeah, and
Okay. Okay.
but he would test mics and you know, and do it in his sort of patois, and which we all thought was very impressive, and he was. But he just became this big force of nature on stage. I mean, everybody, you couldn't take your eyes off him because he was like running all over the place. And in the middle was Terry standing stock still in the middle. It was fantastic. It was we were unstoppable in 1979.
And if you
Absolutely.
think about Neville, Bernie Rhodes, Don't Argue, it is a classic. It's a
Yeah,
classic.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a
That was
classic.
Brad. Basically
Brad
joined the
was a
band.
good, Brad was
Yeah,
a good, John Bradbury was a phenomenal drummer because I am a drummer, and it was my first drum hero because
yeah,
he can play the classical
yeah.
beat, but with a powerful energy on the bass drum, on the snare, and on the hi hat. It was
Mm,
very powerful drama, and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it
He was
was
very good.
with you the motor, the most important thing for specials. Because
Yeah,
if you, I agree with you because when I heard the live version was were very faster and faster because gangsters or do the dog
yeah,
are very faster, but live it is different from studio.
yeah, 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 yeah. And a lot of those, like "Do the Dog" is a rock and roll song, isn't it? Really, with a, you know, I think that's it's interesting. I was thinking about the American ska scene, and a lot of that stuff is just like rock music with an offbeat, isn't it?
Yes.
Like the, you know, it doesn't have the swing
No, no.
The Scatolites. Although there are some American bands like Hepcat and the Agrolites, I love the Agrolites, but they play it, really authentically. But a lot of those American ska bands, it's quite interesting because I'm sure when the Scatolites heard the Specials version of Guns of Navarone, they must have gone rubbish,
Rubbish.
But
No,
that's
Guns of Navarone, the live version are very funny with a good vibe because the trumpeter was Rico.
the trombone player was Rico. Yes, yeah.
Rico.
Rico Rodriguez.
Rico Rodriguez.
Yeah, he was the
And
original. Dick
Dick
Cuthell.
cut.
Dick Cuthell was the trumpet player. Yeah. Oh, they were the real deal. I mean, Rico played on the original version of Message to You, Rudy. Back in whatever. Yeah, yeah.
And
So
it
it was
is
great to have them. There we are.
it is the first press of Specials. And if you this record you have to do in your collection, you have to buy it. And I think that it is an important release. And one thing I want to ask you, Horace, it is the cover art and the fashion. I want to ask you the fashion with the porcupine hat and the
Yeah.
suits. It is influenced by mods. I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. 'Cause that ska music was
When you was younger.
Yeah.
When you
Oh
was
no. I had long hair and
okay.
flared jeans when I was younger. So this was me growing up and realizing that 'cause that was the other thing about punk. It was how you looked. It was the image.
The look. Yes.
And but again, it was punk. When the Specials came out, punk was basically was not over, but it was changing. There was
Post punk.
post Public Image Limited, and then Joy Division and
Gang of Four.
magazine, Gang of Four, yeah, all that.
Human
all that
League.
kind of
Human League.
yeah.
This kind of music.
We had to change the image from like ripped jeans and safety pins. So and there was a mod revival. The Jam
Mod
were
revival.
coming
Mod
to
revival.
and there was like bands like the Chords, the Secret Affair, and the Merton Parkers, blah blah blah. So there was like this mod scene going on, and anyway, and you could buy in second-hand shops, charity shops, you could buy original 60s two-tone suits because the original mods who wore them had either got too fat or they didn't wear them anymore. So that suit that I'm wearing on that first album you've got there, that cost me £6.50, 6.5
£6.
English pound. Yeah, it cost me more than that to get it altered.
Now this kind of suits is more very very expensive.
Absolutely,
suits.
yeah. But a lot of that stuff was secondhand.
But if you think about Specials, the first thing came to my mind. It is the fashion. No, sorry, music, fashion, and the cover art and the logo of Specials.
Yeah.
And the two-tone, the two-tone man, man.
Yeah, that was Jerry Dammers designed that. But we wanted like a label identity. We wanted to do like an English version of Tamla Motown or Stax, or something. If you heard the intro to a Marvin Gaye song or whatever, and you knew it was on Tamla Motown, A, and B, you knew it was going to be good. So we wanted like an English equivalent of that. So where people were combining punk energy and reggae music. So that's where you got the Madness and where you got the Selector and where you got the Beat.
And I want to ask you, when the others band came, like Madness, Beat, Selector, and Dexty Midnight Runners, there was so many difference from the Specials. In my point of view, I said to you, the most important ska band, it is Specials. And I don't want to do a, a classical race. But I want to ask you the feelings between these bands, maybe with Selector, with Selector, you share so many concerts.
Yes, well, we knew the Selector. They were from Coventry, and Limval had known some of the members of the Selector, the black members of the Selector, a long time. So they were our friends. No, there was no rivalry between the bands.
No, okay, no rival.
No, because it was a movement. This is really interesting. The Sex Pistols never toured with the Clash. Oh, they did do gigs earlier on, but like the Sex Pistols wouldn't play gigs with the Stranglers. The Damned and the Clash never. They were very separate. Whereas I thought that there was more strength in the music if there was a scene, if the bands played together. You
Okay.
go to a concert and you'd hear, a whole evening of this, and the bands were slightly different. Madness was still a very young band. They were still learning to play. Mark Bedford, their bass player, and Woody, they were only 17 when they were on tour with the Specials. We were older. I was 26 years old when we did that. So that's almost 10 years older than them. And we could learn. We learned to play. We knew what we were doing. We'd been on tour for like 6-7 months before the two-tone tour, whereas Madness was still, we're playing like 1 or 2 gigs a week. And the same with the Selector. They all knew how to play, but they hadn't sort of coalesced. So we were the more experienced outfit, but there was no rivalry between the bands, because it was it was to everyone's advantage to get on and to play together.
And Beat, do you like it, Beat?
Yes, the Beat are my favorite, my second favorite two-tone band. Yeah. David Steele is an amazing bass player, really, really good, and he
The
invented
first album is very good.
Yeah.
The first album.
He invented a lot of really very clever bass lines. I liked him very much, and I thought Wakeling was a great lyricist. And I went on to work with Dave Wakeling and Ranking Roger after the Specials in a band called General Public. You know that.
And the second album, More Specials,
Yes.
it is an evolution of the sound, because I've heard your bass very, very clever sounds. In the first album, it is very rare, very fast and very ready sound. In the second, it was an evolving thing. It is real or not?
Roddy, our guitar player, once said that going from the first Specials album to More Specials was like going from With the Beatles to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band without doing Rubber Soul, if you like. So
a huge jump, a huge jump.
yeah.
Jump.
And I also thought that was quite a clever an analogy. I think Jerry was always wanted to progress the music and do something different, and other people in the band were like, "We've got a great formula here. Why are you upsetting it?" So there was a friction when we were making the second record. Plus, there was not a lot of material. We recorded in the end of 1979, the first album, and these were songs that we had. Some of those songs we played for like 2 years, 2.5 years. Jerry wrote the song "Little Bitch" when he was 15. So those songs had been around for a long, long time. Whereas we had to invent some new songs for the second album, and we only had like 3 months to do it. So there was a lot of pressure to do that. Jerry had what became International Jet Set and Stereotypes, and that was it. So all the other songs, we either sort of looked back into our sort of back catalogue from songs that we used to play in 1977 and 1978, and any new stuff that we happened to concoct. Yeah, it was a difficult time. It was a difficult time.
Okay, and later split up, and later off of his album split up because in 1984 special AKA, but
Yeah,
was different thing.
yeah. I think the only member from the original band, apart from Jerry Dammers on the Special AKA, was Brad. Was the drummer. All the other musicians. I played on 3 songs on the Special AKA album, but then I left. But they kept the songs and worked on them, and yeah, and they sound pretty good.
And in the middle of the 80s, you played with another bands.
Yes, the Beat split, and I worked with Dave Wakeling and Ranking Roger
Yes,
in this band called General Public,
Generals. Yes.
which didn't mean a lot in the UK and Europe, but we were quite successful in America. The Beat spent a lot of time in America, 1981, 82, 83. And they had a lot of goodwill. I think if they'd have stayed together, their next record would have really would have broken them in America. But so General Public was sort of formed to capitalize on the success that the Beat, or the English Beat as they were called in America,
English beat,
had done.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And after your life of musician, you became a teacher.
Yes. I mean, I was still playing. I was playing pubs and playing going back to playing blues. But yes, I'd I had a son. My wife and I. My wife gave birth to our son in 1987, and all of a sudden, responsibility hits you right in the face, and it's like, okay,
I know it. I know it.
what am I going to do now? So I was still playing music. Don't get me wrong. But I think by 1992, it was time to get the real job that my parents originally wanted me to get. So no, I used my art degree and trained as a school teacher, which
School
was
teacher.
yeah.
And I know it because when you grew up, time's changing. And I know that
Mm,
because I am married and I have 2 sons.
yeah, yeah,
And I agree with you. Your responsibilities became very, very, very important with the job.
abs- yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but I was that we had the Mark II specials, which didn't make a great deal of money, to be honest. But I could do my school teaching and do that concurrently. But I ended up. I thought I was going to retire a school teacher, which is why in 2004 I started writing a book. So
Yes, your
I wrote Scarred,
autobiography.
yeah, the Scarred for Life book. Because I kept diaries, and my parents, bless them, they collected 13 books of press cuttings from back in the day. So I had a lot of sort of source material to call on, and but I've always been a diarist. I've always written stuff down. So I did that, but then the book was published in 2007. In 2008, Linval called me and said, "What do you think about getting the specials back
Specials.
together again?" Yeah, yeah, and it was like, yeah, okay, that sounded like a good idea.
And future project, beside your painting with specials, something new or not?
I'm
Or
playing music. Well,
okay,
I was which is blues, blues rock, with 2 gentlemen who I've known for a long, long time. Um, So I played last night. In point of fact, we had a great gig in Ipswich in England.
Ipswich,
Yeah,
Ipswich.
yeah, yeah. and it's good fun. It's called the Dirt Road Band. It's with a gentleman called Steve Walwyn, who was the main guitar player in Doctor Feelgood for 32 years.
Dr. Feelgood with Squeeze Pub Rock.
Yeah, 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 and that's got and a drummer that I knew of from Coventry, but I'd never actually played with. So it was a side project. It was the sort of thing that I would do when the Specials weren't working or when Doctor Feelgood weren't working. But then Steve wasn't in Doctor Feelgood, and I wasn't in the Special, so that's taken centre stage. But we play out, a couple of times a month. It's not a great we it's very difficult because we're a new band, but we're old people. So
Yes.
and I got back at just after three in the morning yesterday, and I haven't done that for a long, long, long time, and I'm really feeling it today, because
And
I
after
ain't
the
young. But
death,
that's fun. That's what I'm doing musically, and there's a couple of other things. There are some people I've met who live in Derby, and they play Cajun and Zydeco, the Louisiana pop stuff, which is lovely, which is really good. I ran a traditional country and western band for a while about 10 years ago. I really loved that. That was really good. Really changed the way I play, listening to country music. You support the song. You don't there's no egos,
no, 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 no,
you've
no.
just got to be there and do the material
Follow the
and
music. You
yeah,
have to
yeah, yeah,
follow the music.
yeah,
And with Specials, after the death of Terry,
yes.
Specials now are stopped.
Of
I think
defunct,
so.
yes. We have
Okay.
in 2019 we played four amazing concerts in the ruins of Coventry Cathedral. Um,
Like
and
Tangerine Dream. Like
yeah,
Tangerine Dream.
yeah, yeah. Tangerine Dream played in the new cathedral. We played in the ruins of the old
Okay.
cathedral,
Okay.
which was left in that way after it was bombed in the war. But out of the four nights, three of those nights were recorded, and there will be next year a live album from those times. So it'll be Gangsters, Too Much Too Young, Monkey Man, but it'll also be songs from Encore, our 2019 record.
My favorite song of the first album is
Mm.
Blank Expression.
Right, okay, that's a Linval Golding guitar solo right there. Yeah.
And your favorite song of the Specials? I know that it is an important question, but if you choose five songs of Specials, what do you choose?
5 songs.
Yes, five.
5. Oh, crikey. All right, well, it's got to be Nightclub, hasn't it? Because
Okay.
that's the bass thing. International Jet Set from
Mm.
the second album. We played it live. I loved playing that song. The audience didn't like it at all. Even our fans. When we played from 2009 to 2022, we tried to change the music, and I love playing International Jet Sets, but the audience were like, nah, I like it. Monkey Man. I think
Monkey
that's
Man.
the essence of the Specials, a live version of Monkey Man, especially with Neville shouting his head off over the top of it. It was insane. It was just incredible.
Insane. Insane.
Absolutely mad.
Yes.
From I think Vote for Me from the Encore album is wonderful. That the trombone solo that Tim Smart does on that was incredible. Why it never won awards is beyond my comprehension. It's a fantastic piece of music. Crikey, how many is that? That's 4. Gosh.
And I thought
I suppose Gangsters, because that was the
Gangsters.
first one. Yeah, yeah.
And I thought that you put Friday night and Saturday morning. It was a good one.
That was the first song that Terry presented to the band, and I think
Very, very.
that was the beginning of his career as a really talented lyricist. Yeah, that was yeah, that
Six
last Ghost Town single. I suppose Ghost Town ought to
Town.
be in there as well. But that was a reggae single. There were 3 reggae songs on that. There's Ghost Town, Why, Friday Night, and Saturday Morning. So there was no ska in there either. It's funny how when we reformed the Specials, we soon learnt that there were 2 different types of Specials.
Yes.
There was the 1979 Specials,
And in 1980.
and which was really different to the band that recorded Ghost Town. So it was quite strange, but time has concentrated more on that 1979 Specials. You don't get too many Specials tribute bands playing
No,
international jet set. It's
no.
all Monkey Man, Gangsters, Too Much Too Young, isn't it? So,
And,
but
and
that was really interesting. That was really interesting to come to terms with that when we reformed.
it is very important because I think that the legacy of Specials, it is these songs are very important, like Concrete Jungle, or
Yeah.
Too Hot, or Stupid Marriage. I know that, but in 1979, Specials was very different from the other bands.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that maybe UK wasn't prepared to this kind of music, because in 1979, if you think, or us, there was the post punk, and bands like Fall, Gang of Four, Joy Division, and the industrial scene are very different. And ska music for me was a music for a certain people. Like, I want to ask you the last question. There was a Manchester band that is called a certain ratio, a certain ratio.
Yes, yeah, okay, yeah. They
It
they
is
were a bit
very
later. They were a bit later, weren't they?
it is very influenced by Specials, because
Okay.
the line of the bass is like take from you. If you listen to the song "Do the Do Do the Do," it is very special song, not ska, not reggae, but with a post punk beat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
very straight.
they were a dance band, weren't they? They played funk. They were on
Yes,
Factory, weren't they? Yeah.
yes, funk disco. And later, maybe I will send you the link of this song, and you can tell me about. And a certain ratio was this similar to Specials, and
Mhm.
it is the only band in Manchester scene very different from the post punk.
Right, right, okay. No, I'd
And
never heard that concept, but yeah, okay.
it is very different. Factory was very different. And I want to say thank you for your time, Horace. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you for everything. Give the thanks to your wife, Claire, for
Will
your
do.
kindness and comprehension and patience and everything about it. And if someone wants to buy your painting, there is your website.
Horace
Can you
Panter
recall it?
Art. Yes, horacepanterart.com. All big one big long word, Horace Panter Art. And you can have a look at some stuff, and and Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming. Thank you, Horace, for everything.
My
And
pleasure, my
later,
pleasure.
if you stay 1 minute after the streaming, so we can say goodbye.
Okay.
And io ringrazio tutti, è stato un onore. Adesso attendete i sottotitoli. Spero vi sia piaciuta. Settimana prossima, ultima diretta prima del buon Natale. Vi auguro una buona notte e ci vediamo settimana prossima. Bye. See you. Bye.